Hi everyone, I'm Marilyn from Monash University, and I wish I could be with you in Stavanger. I was really looking forward to participating, but nevertheless, I will be presenting via Zoom recording. So let's see, we'll just begin. So the presentation is designed to be around about half an hour, and we'll begin with a little bit of an overview. I'll be talking a little bit about what are the research goals of our conceptual play lab, because that's the work that we're doing. An example of the kind of intervention that we've developed over a number of years, and then how we've taken this forward as a snapshot of some of our research. So what's the goals of our conceptual play lab? Well, we're desperately exploring imagination in play and imagination in STEM. And it is a national programmatic study of conceptual play in science, technology, engineering and mathematics, so hence the STEM. And we have three pillars of research. One is focused very much on STEM concept formation, following infants as they become toddlers, as they become preschoolers and then into school, to see how they develop STEM concepts over time. The second pillar of research looks at the same idea, but in relation to families, and how families create a pedagogy that supports STEM learning of their children and motivates them potentially into STEM careers in the future. And finally, the third pillar, which is what I'm going to be talking about today more directly, is focused very much on the teachers, how early childhood teachers bring STEM concepts into play-based learning. And this is really important in Australia because our particular theoretical need and practice problem has been around a concept that's been part of the curriculum called intentional teaching. So there has been a greater push to bring STEM concepts into children's play, but how to do that has been open to investigation. And so that's the gap that we're seeking to fill generally over a period of time without losing play as the core developmental period of the preschool child, but not just losing. It's actually about amplifying and making stronger this position with the work that we're trying to do. So with our study that we're trying to explore here, so pillar one, it's 150 infants. Pillar two, we're following 100 families. And for pillar three, we're reaching out to 3,000 teachers, early childhood teachers. So it's quite an ambitious project, but we have a total of 5 years to achieve those studies. What's been our main approach? A lot of the work we've done, particularly in the past, that we've brought into the conceptual play lab work, has been the use of an educational experiment. And we're also taking that now forward in pillars 1 and 2, so looking at creating educational experiments with our 150 infants as we follow them through to school age, and our preschool children in family homes, 100 of those. But essentially, the educational experiment, for those of you who are not familiar with that, is developed by Marilyn and also appears in the work of Gunilla Lindquist. She references this important work, and Marilyn has developed this primarily for school-age children. Gunilla used this type of a similar sort of approach, but for, as you know, for preschool age children. But what's core here that I've drawn upon has been the idea of a theoretical problem that we're trying to explore, how to bring conceptual learning into children's play. And so it goes beyond a problem of practice. And the problem of practice, of course, is how to do that pedagogically. And of course, in many parts of the Northern Hemisphere, there's a lot of research that looks at the play learning child and explores that. So there's large teams at Gutenberg, for instance. as you will know. So then this takes me to the next slide, which is how we've made use of this. And importantly for us has been to formulate what is the essential research problem that we're trying to tackle, and to make sure that the everyday life of the preschool, which is a play-based setting, is maintained for the children and the teachers. Even though we have the societal demand to bring more concepts into children's play, we want to maintain the leading activity of the preschool child to play as an important psychological function, but also as a key pedagogical practice that early childhood teachers have used and developed over many years. So to maintain that. But the intervention, particularly that we bring forward as part of our educational experiment, is something that we've developed and brought into the Conceptual Play Lab. So we'll have a look at an aspect of this now. I want to share with you a little video clip, and hopefully it will work, but I'm sure the organisers will be able to show you separately if this doesn't work effectively embedded in the PowerPoint. But in the example of the beautiful book of The Secret Garden, a very complex book, this is going to be illustrated in the video clip in a moment. But the intervention is essentially choosing a story with lots of drama, so following very much Gunilla Lindquist's work of play worlds, designing a space for the imaginary situation to take place, so the outdoor play area, for instance, then having planning how the children and the teachers will enter and exit this imaginary play space. And this is where the work that we've done moves beyond what Lindquist did, because we're very interested in this theoretical problem, how to bring conceptual learning into play, and particularly STEM concepts. So we've looked at how specifically planning the inquiry and a range of ways in which that can be supported in children's play. So how to bring the concept into the play so that it services the children's play and amplifies it and matures the children's play. And then the fifth characteristic, again, which links back to Lindquist, is in relation to the teachers planning how they will be play partners and how they'll collectively bring all the children and the teachers together into these imaginary situations. But of course, this can be really quite challenging to bring all of that together. And so we'll have a look at the video clip now it's only a short 1 minute video clip of The Secret Garden and what it just looks like. So this model of this intervention, what it looks like when teachers are doing it.
Research has shown that imagination in play and imagination in learning develops children's learning of concepts.
There's something about the spacesuits that no one's mentioned yet. They have auto-heat, but that uses up power.
Based on research, the evidence-based model explores the nature of play and learning in a way that motivates children and engages adults in wanting to explore science concepts in primary schools.
And then we made the rocket and we fly to the moon.
I think as teachers, intuitively, we know that play works and play is the child's world.
NASA is ready, let's go to the launching pad.
If you create an imaginary world, you can make links anywhere.
So that was just as a quick overview, and I've shown you this one in particular because in Australia we've done this work. Children who are 6 are in school, so 5 and 6-year-olds, which I think is equivalent to the groups you're working with as well, and earlier. But we've done this work primarily to look at how infants, toddlers, preschoolers and school-aged children can use this conceptual play world as a model. So that's been our intervention. So, and what we've learned to date in relation to this And there's three key things that I wanted to share with you. One is that we've learned that one of the big challenges for in the educational experiment as teachers and researchers as a collaboration go forward has been, the first one is in relation to how to choose the story. So what we've noticed is that that sometimes there is a perception that because we're talking about STEM concepts that we have to find something like this book here, which is a simple factual book essentially about torches and about light. So the view has been that maybe this is what we mean, but in fact, no. It's much more exciting to have a dramatic story like The Spooky Old Tree, where the need for a torch or light becomes evident as part of the story. So the three bears going into this spooky old tree meet all sorts of interesting challenges and excitement. And when these kinds of stories, because it's in the dark and problems can arise where the torch doesn't work and we have to problem solve how to do that, but also the possibility of losing the torch and being chased by the bear is all part of that drama. So the biggest challenge, one of the first challenges has been about how to select a story so that it's full of drama, it's exciting, and it has the potential to bring in the concept into the story. And so, as you can see on the slide here, that this particular book is very dramatic. It creates some sort of drama, which is exciting for the children to want to role play and be part of, not only just to listen to the story, but to revisit the story over and over. But within that, of course, learning about the concept of light. So light travels in straight lines, it can be reflected, it can be refracted into the colours of the rainbow and so on. And that there is this collective imaginary situation that's being created. So we're all going into the spooky old tree together. And then when the problem arises, how to make a torch. So there might be some bulbs and batteries and wires available for the children to use and assemble and put into cylinders to create their torch, then there's a real need for that to take place. So that's the first idea that has been challenging, is actually to, again, think about the concepts, of course, but it needs to be personally meaningfully located for the children. And of course, something like this is much more personally meaningful than to have something like this only. Of course, in exploring, you may need to draw on these kinds of resources. So that's been the first thing that we've learned. The second thing we've learned is that solving the problem so that it's authentic is really important as well. And so during the different periods of the research that led into the work we're doing, that initially the thought was always around the STEM concept and you know, what STEM concept could be used with the narration of the book. And so this one's, you know, very straightforward and very easy to consider. But teachers moved from that to thinking about what was the STEM knowledge that they needed. So what did they need to know about the concept of light? And then developed further with thinking about, well, what is the essence of that concept? So what's core so light can be blocked and creates a shadow, for instance. So what is it about the concept of light that would be meaningful or could be understood in ways that amplify the children's play? And that takes us to the third period, where the teachers became more confident with, and we as researchers became more skilled. Together we were able to come to this final realisation that of asking the question around, was the STEM problem credible to the children? So was it credible to them to want to make a torch in order to role play and be part of the conceptual play world of the spooky old tree in the night, going on an adventure? So that was the second major area. And I'm going to show you how the video clip going back to what I began with, where the teachers are exploring the problem of how to make to make it credible to the children. So we'll have a look at this video clip, and this is the teachers with their planning of the secret garden. And what they were very interested to do was to use the secret garden as the basis for looking at the earth, space, the relations between the sun, the moon and the earth. And so they explored setting up a problem to create some sound effects into a phone, as you'll see in a moment, for sending out a satellite message because Cousin Robin was lost on the moon. So that was the narrative that was being developed as they revisited this story and deepened the adventures that the children went on. So every time they entered the secret garden, opening the gate, and all sorts of interesting things would happen. So here's their planning.
So you've gone to the moon,
Yeah.
on some kind of mission,
Yeah.
the recce,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing if it's a distress signal, hasn't gone really well.
Yeah, that's
You landed on the far side of the moon.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Navigation went
Yeah.
wrong.
Explain why I was going up there.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
You can't
Okay.
see a lot.
Limited
Yeah.
resources.
No
I guess
solar
we
power.
We want to really encourage the sense of urgency. So we want the children to be scientists, engineers. So we've got to learn so that we can then
And
get to you.
empathise with this.
Your
poor-
battery could be at a percentage.
Hello, children, it's Cousin Robin, Red Robin's cousin, and I'm stuck on the moon. I need your help. The children learn the concepts so they can solve the problem. How to rescue Cousin Robin.
I'm sending out a message via satellite, and I hope you can help me with that, and I hope you can come and help me.
The problem is what motivates the children to learn.
She's up there on the far side and she's thinking about living, non-living conditions.
It's dangerous. She did bring tools.
Why did she have to make a vegetable garden on the moon? Why didn't she just make one on Earth?
To see if the next generation of life could actually live in the lunar base.
So this gives you a very quick overview of that second problem. And the third problem or finding that we had as a team of researchers and teachers was in relation to entering the play. And Gunilla Lindquist also identified that was a challenge. So teachers taking on the role of a play partner is very different to being a teacher. So rather than the teacher being the leaders, or in Australia, we've had the challenge of the teachers being the followers mostly, and not being able to participate in the teaching of particular concepts, but rather to facilitate. Very Piagetian has been our tradition. So then inviting teachers to be part of the imaginary play situation with the children also led to some challenges. And what we learned together was that making this change from being a play partner, from being a teacher to a play partner, was actually created a drama for the teachers initially, because there was always the worry about, well, how do I control the children if they don't, if something goes wrong, if I'm in a play role. So from the very early stages, how to change positions from the teacher role to a play partner, the question was, how to be believable, how to be a believable play partner from the children's perspective. And of course, where teachers got to was that the responses from the children were so positive. They felt confident that the children knew that the teachers were pretending, and in fact really enjoyed this role. Now, of course, this doesn't mean they're doing this all of the time, being part of the play, but this is when they're going on these adventures. They're part of the children's play. So rather than a decontextualised inquiry or discovery learning, where you're learning about a concept and you just hope that the children will discover what you hope they will learn about light by putting all the materials out, the setting up a problem, being in a play world and doing this kind of being in this, part of the spooky old tree, or whatever the play world is in relation to the chosen book, gives a very different context in which educators and teachers are working. So they began with, first of all, worrying about how they could control children, to then thinking about, well, actually, professional perspective of not interfering in children's play. And maybe like you in Norway, in Australia, we have a lot of documentation around the roles of teachers and the role of what is play. And often it's positioned as play is the work of children. And if adults are involved, then it can't be play. So this discomfort with thinking about this teacher role in play had certainly emerged also. And then this changed to then how to motivate all the children into a collective play. So then the worry was, well, actually, what happens if 2 or 3 children don't wish to participate? And because we're all going together on an adventure, all the adults, all of the children. What we also learned there together, teachers and researchers, was that then it's thinking through, well, what's the motive orientation of the child? So in some of the cases, particularly with the 6-year-old children, they felt that they were now in a more formal learning environment, sort of like school. So why should they be playing? And felt that that was not what they wanted to do. So the teachers cleverly gave them clipboards and with pens to be part of the investigating team. So still really inside the imaginary play situation, but actually having a role that they could, perhaps using an iPad or to document, take photos to bring back so that they could do some research and then take back the research into the imaginary play situation. So that the play would be amplified, so that they were still part of it, but they weren't necessarily thinking they were just doing imaginary play, but what they were doing was adding to the imaginary play by being scientists, by being engineers, by being mathematicians, by being technologists. So taking on a more professional STEM role and taking that forward inside the imaginary play. So then the teachers then, where they got to, which was really interesting, was that the links between imaginary play and abstract thinking in children's play really became foregrounded. So the conversations over the 2 years with teachers changed into thinking about all these motivating conditions that were being created where STEM concepts needed to be used to solve and amplify the play so that the play could keep going, became the focus. And this kind of change was in an essence a reflection of this theoretical problem that we as researchers and teachers were exploring. And what we determined was that teachers, early childhood teachers, were working in a really beautiful theoretical way about this problem. So they might be solving the practices of how to bring children into the play, but actually they were working at a much deeper level because, as you can see, taking this role as a play partner in this period 1 of data collection, where they were worried about being a believable play partner, in period 4 was very focused on the development of children's imagination and children's abstract thinking, so that the essence of the problem, the concept, was actually being used and amplified. And so in the play, but at the same time, the teachers were always thinking about how to make the play situations meaningful, how to amplify the play, and how the play was maturing over time, as well as how the children were developing and using theoretical concepts as teachers were in the play situation. So I want to bring this to a close and say that what we've learned from our research has been primarily, and this is what we've taken forward into Pillar 3, is that the bringing of a concept into children's play, in Australia called intentional teaching, has been a very rich experience for teachers, because rather than focusing on the practice problem, as the driving force of how to do the practice better, it was very much a theoretical problem about how to bring concepts into children's play in a meaningful way, which of course is the major problem of this Pillar 3 research that we're taking forward with 3,000 teachers now. And this has been a very exciting journey for the teachers, and it's been a very exciting journey for us as researchers, because in the literature, in the STEM literature, particularly the science education literature, there has always been this scenario of teachers being blamed for not teaching concepts, STEM concepts or science concepts, and being told that they're not confident or competent to teach it. But our research is showing that actually that's not really the problem, because as you can see, the teachers were focused on the story, how to make, how to go from a story which was very much about the concepts to actually thinking about the children and the meaningful play world that was being created where problems arise in the story, through to thinking about how to authentically create inquiries within the story so that it was very personally meaningful and would develop the children's play further, but at the same time being aware of the challenges of having everyone involved. And outstanding early childhood teachers are always very good at planning for individual children and how to bring children into play situation. So this kind of play world gave the educators, the teachers, a theoretical problem to really explore as well, so that they were thinking theoretically, not just practically. And this was really motivating and exciting, at the same time as seeing how excited the children were that rather than having materials put out on a table or playing with circuitry equipment to learn about how to set up and make a torch, or how does light work, for instance, and reflected and refracted. It's much more exciting to explore a problem in a narrative. And so the children were so excited, and they could revisit and deepen the play and have more problems. But of course, when children make a torch and they go on an adventure, their homemade torch is likely to fall apart. It's not going to be able to shine in the way that they expected it to. So more problems arise. And this is all part of the children's play narrative, but also part of the teacher's theoretical problem that they're taking forward. So we're really excited that we're taking this out to 3,000 teachers. And our early findings in relation to how teachers have learned from, if you like, kick-started from what we've learned with the original sets of teachers, has been very exciting and very inspiring, because educators are feeling the excitement of the STEM in children's play because children are so excited. So I hope you enjoy your conference. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. And I'm really very, very happy if I receive some emails or some communications in relation to this. We have a website which gives a whole lot of resources, lots more videos. We have an app with videos in it which shows the practices in relation to the characteristics of a conceptual play world. We have many, many materials that we're using. We have a closed or private Facebook for teachers who want to share what they're doing or want to bring forward questions that we respond to. But of course, you'll have to write in English to me, because I'm afraid that's the limits of my capacity, only in English. So anyway, thank you very much for your attention.